Okay, hey, so I'm just going to jump right into Act 2. And this little video will be Act 2 and Act 3 because they're pretty short when I'm discussing them. They're long if you see them played out, but it'll be kind of short. Okay, so Act 2 starts with Polonius, who again is Ophelia's father, and he's a lord, so he's someone that of well breeding. And he is with his servant Ronaldo. And he's asking him some questions, and he wants Ronaldo, sorry, I can't talk today, to basically spy on his son Laertes when he's away at school. And he says if he does any gaming, drinking, fencing, swearing, quarreling, drabbing, which is wenching, which means sleeping around, if he does any of those things, catch him and report him to me. I don't want him to bring scandal upon my house. And then Polonius is like, okay, do you understand? Ronaldo says, very good, my lord. We need to make sure he stays a gentleman. So then enter Ophelia. Ronaldo leaves the stage, and then Ophelia comes back in. And Ophelia says, something crazy just happened. My lord, as I was sewing in my closet, Lord Hamlet with his doublet all embraced, no hat upon his head, his stockings fouled, ungartered, and down givey to his ankle, pale as his shirt, his knees knocking each other, and with a look so pious in purport, as if he had been lucid of hell. To speak of horrors, he comes before me. Polonius asks, mad for thy love? And she says, my lord, I do not know, but I truly do fear it. And then she explains what happened, and this is something I really do like to act out in class to show people. So, and she says, he took me by the wrist and held me hard. Then he goes the length of all his arm, and with his other hand thus o'er his brow, he falls to such perusal of my face. As he would draw it, long stayed he so, at last a little shaking of mine arm. And thrice his head thus waving up and down, he raised a sigh so pious and profound, that it did seem to shatter all his bulk, and end his being. That down he lets me go, and with his head over his shoulder turned, he seemed to find a way without his eyes. For out the doors he went without their helps, and for the last bended their light on me. So Hamlet, in his first act of acting manic and putting on this antic disposition, is to rush into his girlfriend's room, which is totally inappropriate in the time period here. Especially the fact that his jacket was open and his shorts and his socks were on properly. And not only does that, he grabs onto her, and then after she kind of shakes him off, he walks away staring at her the whole time till he leaves the room. So if that's not creepy, I don't know what is. So he's acting creepy. Polonius says, well, maybe it's because you have stopped allowing him to send letters to you, which he has, because when Laertes and Polonius were having that talk with Ophelia before about her charity and about like kind of playing hard to get, she took it to heart and she has not been receiving his letters. So Polonius seems to think that when she's not, because he's not taking her letters, he's acting crazy. But who knows? Okay, the next scene is scene 2. This is where we have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And these two characters are kind of interchangeable. They don't have a lot of like unique characteristics that identify them as somebody else. They just happen to be these two big guys that know Hamlet from college, and they kind of act as spies for the king and the queen on Hamlet during these scenes. So they ask those two to kind of keep an eye on him. And then Polonius enters the room, and Polonius says, he kind of tells them a little bit about Hamlet acting crazy. He says, Madam, I swear no art at all, that he is mad, 'tis true. 'Tis true, 'tis pity, 'tis pity, 'tis true, 'tis true. A foolish figure, but farewell for it, for I will use no art. And then he starts reading letters sent from Hamlet to Ophelia. So letters to Ophelia from Hamlet. And this one says, to the celestial, my soul's idol, the most beautified Ophelia, that in her excellent white bosom. And the queen says, these came from Hamlet to her. And then he keeps reading, and this is one of the ones from the quiz, till they get to the line that says, doubt though the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, but never doubt I love. And while today, as my more science-minded students have pointed out, everything in this letter is wrong, but in the days they would have thought that the earth did not move around the sun, and that doubt thou the stars are fire. They didn't quite have the same kind of understanding of what stars were. But still, we get the sentiment, right? Like, you can doubt everything that's true, but don't doubt my love. Which I think is very sweet. But I don't know if he's sending this to be crazy or if he was sending this like in a sincere kind of thing. But Polonius and the queen and the king are kind of talking about Hamlet and what we should do. And then he enters the stage. And the queen says, "But look where sadly the poor wretch comes in reading." So Hamlet enters the stage reading a book. And he runs into Polonius. So I'm Hamlet, walking around, reading my book. And he pretends to not know Polonius. So you know this is crazy, because Polonius is his girlfriend's dad. He knows Polonius. He's part of the court. And Polonius says, "Do you know me, my lord?" And he said, "Excellent, well, you are a fishmonger." He's not a fishmonger. Polonius says, "Not I, my lord." And then Hamlet says, "Then I would you were so honest a man." And then he keeps bantering with him. And then he even asks, "Wait, do you have a daughter?" We all know that Polonius has a daughter, and that's his girlfriend. But then Hamlet starts going on. He says, "Let not her walk in the sun. Conception is a blessing, but as your daughter may conceive, friend, look to it." And this is one of the parts where we have an aside. And an aside is when a character kind of gives like a stage whisper to the audience. Similar to a soliloquy, in an aside, the other characters on stage can't hear what they're saying. They're not supposed to. Right? So this part, the next part, Polonius says, is an aside. So it's kind of like this is the audience over here. He's kind of talking to them. He says, "How say you by that? Still harping on my daughter? Yet he knew me not at first. He said I was a fishmonger. He is far gone, and truly in my youth I have suffered much extremity for love, very near this. I'll speak to him again. For what have you read, my lord?" And so that last line is directed to Hamlet, and therefore that is the end of the aside. And Hamlet says, "Words, words, words," which is kind of funny, because that's kind of how I feel like when I ask my classes like what they've been reading, and they're like, "Listen, lady, words, words, words." So then they continue on their conversation. Polonius has another aside to the audience. He says, "Though this be madness, yet there is method in it. Will you walk out of the air, my lord?" And then he has another aside later. And then Rosencrantz and Guildenstern come in. They come to talk to Hamlet. Hamlet is being pretty funny. At one point, he calls fortune a strumpet, which is kind of a fun word. He tells them that Denmark basically sucks and that it's a prison, and he hates being there. And they're kind of trying to talk some sense into him, and he was like, "No." And then he kind of calls him out too, like a little bit, like, "Why are you here? Were you not sent for me? Is it your own inclining? Is it a free visitation? Like, come on, be real with me for a second. Like, why are you here?" And they said, "Oh, my lord, we were sent for." So they kind of go back and forth. And then I'm kind of skipping around this Act 2, Scene 2, because it's not as good as it could be. But then Polonius comes back in and tells them that they have some actors that are coming into town, which is very exciting. So there is a part in this play where there is another play going on within the play. So the characters in Hamlet sit at one point and they watch what they call the players. They watch the other play come in. And Hamlet at one point gives a speech from Aeneas to Dido, which you all should remember since we read it this semester, which I thought was super interesting. So he said he can recite that. And then the players speak with him too. And this is kind of when Hamlet gets this idea. He says, I know a way that I will catch the king in his guilt, right? Get him to confess a murder. I will talk to the players, and I will have them put on this play that is very similar to what happened. It will be a play where the king's brother kills him and then marries his wife. And as the play is going on, I will watch the king and queen to see if they look guilty at all. So that's kind of his idea. And that is he says, the play is the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. And then he ends it. So it jumps us over to Act 3, which I will get in this video real quick. Okay, so Act 3 begins. We're in the castle. We have the king, the queen, Polonius, Ophelia, Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and Lawrence. So we have all kinds of people. And they are talking about Hamlet, who they all like to talk about. They're explaining it. He doesn't like to answer their questions. He's acting kind of crazy. I keep going. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern exit the stage. And then the queen exits the stage. And then the king and Polonius exit the stage. And then Hamlet comes in with one of the most famous soliloquies of all time. Again, this is not a monologue. This is a soliloquy. And this is his private thoughts that no one else on stage is supposed to be hearing. And I bet you can all guess how this starts. To be or not to be, that is the question. And I won't read the whole thing to you because it is very long, but I do recommend that you read it, and it's in Act 3, Scene 1, because it is amazing and very long, and it's not what people think. We tend to think to be or not to be is like to be or not to be, to do or not to do, like kind of like a motivational type speech. It's not. He is debating out loud, or he's debating whether or not he should go on with his life or if he should just kill himself. So it is not this inspirational, aspirational speech. He says, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled out of this mortal coil, must give us pause. Yes, this is not good. But then at the very end of the soliloquy, he recognizes Ophelia and he speaks to her. And and this is a big scene because he asks how she is, and then she has like what we in class we have like a little shoebox, kind of like a box of like his favors. And she goes to give him back all his notes and like, the t-shirt he left at your house and I don't know what you kids do, not CDs, but whatever. She's giving him back a box of stuff because now they're broken up. And she's like, here, my lord, I have your box. This does not go well. She says, I have remembrances of yours that I have longed to be. I clearly need a Coke. I pray you now receive them. And he says, no, not I. I never gave you aught. And she says, my honored lord, you know well you did with those words of so sweet breath composed, as made things more rich, their perfume lost. Take these again for the noble mind. Rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind. There, my lord. And this is kind of when it makes a turn. And so he starts saying, are you honest? And it doesn't mean like honest, are you lying to me? It means like honest, are you chaste? Have you been cheating on me? Like, what's your character? And she doesn't. She says, my lord. And he says, are you fair? She says, what do you mean? And then he explains, if you're honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty. Oh, Lord almighty, I don't know, I'm so tired. Okay, anyway, so they now they're like going off. So kind of picture like two lovers just kind of breaking up, and all of a sudden one of them is assaulting the other one's character, and they're like, what are you talking about? What are you saying about me? Like, you broke up with me, and now you're telling me that it's all my fault? Like, I can see where Ophelia's going with this. And he even says to her at one point, this was sometime a paradox, but now the time gives it proof. I did love you once. And she said, indeed, my lord, you made me believe so. And then he flips on her, kind of gaslights her, and says, you should not believe me, for virtue cannot so inoculate our old stock, but we shall relish of it. I loved you not. And she says, I was the more deceived. And then at this part, he kind of starts like flipping out on her, telling her to go to a nunnery. So a nunnery, again, like in the Catholic tradition, like a woman that was going to be single and a virgin her whole life will go to the nunnery and become a nun. So he's like screaming at her, really getting in her face. We are errant knaves all, believe none of us. Basically saying all men are crap, we're all out to get you. Go to a nunnery, go to a nunnery. Where's your father? And she says, at home, my lord. And then he's like going nuts, and now poor Ophelia says, oh, help him, you sweet heavens. Like she's still like praying for him. And he says, if thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow. Thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery, go farewell. And if thou wilt need marry, marry a fool, for wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. Go to a nunnery, go, and quickly too, farewell. Heavenly powers restore him, is what Ophelia says. Poor Ophelia. And then he has another little speech, and then he ends it with, to a nunnery, go, and then he leaves the stage. And poor Ophelia is totally upset, and she has this little monologue where she is saying, oh, woe is me to see what I have seen, see what I see. The king and Polonius have been watching from the sides, and they come in and they say, yes, Hamlet's gone crazy, but it's all because of Ophelia. We need to keep an eye on him. And the king has this great line that ends the scene that says, it shall be so. Madness in great ones must not unwatched go. Oh, I love Shakespeare's little one-liners before they switch to the next scene. Okay, so then we're at we're still in Act 3, Scene 2. This is when the players come in. Hamlet has spoken with them about doing a different play than they expected. They come in and he kind of talks to everybody there, kind of acts crazy. He even does this really terrible thing to Ophelia. Remember, they've just broken up. He's been screaming at her, telling her to go to a nunnery, calls her a whore in so many words, gaslights her a little bit, and they're all in there to watch the play, and he comes in and he lays at her feet. And he makes all these really bawdy, like, inappropriate sexual jokes, right? Like, I mean, my head upon your lap. Do you think I made country matters? That's a fair thought to lie between maids' legs. Yeah, we don't talk like that in this era, even now, honestly, in the era of Me Too. And what we know about sexual harassment, like, he is being very over the line with her. But then the players come in, and he is watching closely to the king. And the players come in, and they're acting everything out, and there's a king and queen, and they're loving each other, and he pretends he loves her so, like, they love each other so much, and then the king falls asleep, and then a poisoner comes in and poisons her, and then the poisoner woos the queen, and then everybody ends happy. And while he's watching this, he is keeping an eye on Polonius to see if he looks guilty at all. And Hamlet even asks his mom, the queen, Madam, how do you like this play? And she says this awesome line, which I love, which I feel like we should use every day in our vernacular. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. Do you ever meet somebody that is like guilty of something, and so they do the opposite? Like, I would never, like, they're cheating on their significant other, and all they do is talk about all the time, like, how important it is not to cheat, and how to be open and honest, and, like, what you're doing, and how it's so amazing, and how good their relationship is, when, yes, they are protesting too much, like, they're trying to make an excuse. But the king is having a reaction to it, right, and he does look a little guilty. And Polonius kind of jumps up and leaves. And Hamlet and Horatio have this little talk about, like, what's going on. And then Rosencrantz and Guildenstern come in, who are super boring. But anyways, they come in. And then Polonius and Hamlet have this little banter back and forth. And where they see a a cloud. And Polonius says, by its mass and 'tis like a camel indeed. And Hamlet says, methinks it's like a weasel. Polonius says, it is backed like a weasel. Hamlet says, like a whale. Polonius says, very like a whale. He says, well, then I will come to my mother by and by. Oh, it's so good. Okay, anyways, and that kind of ends scene 2. Scene 3 starts with the king going off on Rosencrantz and Guildenstern about Hamlet, about how upset he is that he's acting nuts. He says, I like him not, nor it stands safe with us, so let his men as range, therefore prepare you. Your commission will be forthwith with dispatch, and he to England shall along with you. The terms of our state may not endure hazard, as near as doth hourly grow out of his brows. Basically, he's acting crazy. I don't want him here anymore. You guys need to take him to England. I'll pay for it. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. But before Hamlet can leave for England, Polonius exits the stage, and he exits, and the king is there, and the king is by himself, and the king kneels down, and he starts to pray. So when we do this in class, I'm Polonius, and I have a student stand behind me to be Hamlet. So the king is kneeling down praying, right? And Hamlet comes in behind him. So I'm Hamlet. And Hamlet, now picture everybody has swords back then, So Hamlet comes in behind him, and he wants to, just end the king right there, Claudius. But he has this real doubt with himself. He's like, if I do it now, he's praying, and then he goes to heaven. So why would I kill him right now when he's praying? His soul is clean, right? He's confessed. I need to kill him before he can have confession. So usually when we're acting this out in class, I'll be the king, and I'll be laying there, and I'll have a student come behind me, which I know sounds kind of crazy, and I'll have them read the monologue from Hamlet, where they kind of oh no, I'm not gonna do it right now. Oh, I'd like to cut off his head, but I'm not gonna do it right now. You're right, have them show how dangerously close the king comes to being. But Hamlet doesn't do it because he's praying. So Hamlet says, nope, I'm not going to do it, and he leaves. But then the king says, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below. Words without thoughts never to heaven go. So all the praying he was doing out loud, he just confessed that he didn't mean it. And everyone knows that unless you mean it, your prayers don't count. Bam, Hamlet should have got him. But now we are in the queen's chamber. So this is the queen's bedroom, and the queen is talking, or her living area, and she is talking to Polonius. And they hear Hamlet coming, so Polonius hides behind a curtain. Okay, so pretend this is a curtain. Polonius is hidden behind it. So this is why I have to do it this way, because I like to act this out. It's a play. So Polonius is hidden behind the curtain. The queen's over here. Hamlet comes in, and Hamlet is raging, right? And he knows someone's hidden behind the curtain, but he thinks it's Claudius. And Hamlet is raging at his mother, and she's saying, you've offended me, don't speak to your mother that way, basically. And he is like, oh, no, not by the rude, not so. You are the queen and your husband's brother's wife, and if it were not, you are my mother. Come and sit you down, you shall not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass, where you may see the inmost part of you. He doesn't mean glass, a drink. He means look in the mirror. I'm going to sit you down and make you look at yourself in the mirror until you realize what you have done. He is raged. But he sees the curtain moving, so he takes out a sword. Remember, this is the curtain. He takes out his sword, and he rams it through the curtain, hoping it's Claudius. I'm sorry. But it's Polonius, his girlfriend's dad. He doesn't feel that bad about it, though. He says, thou wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. I took thee for thy better, take thy fortune. So he's really not too bad. But he's going back and forth with his mother, and he decides to drag the body off with him. It's delightful. But not before. Sorry, I don't want to skip this part. Okay, so Hamlet has killed Polonius. He is fighting with his mother. And just to make this scene even better, the ghost comes in. So now we've got dead Polonius, alive Hamlet, alive Gertrude, and a ghost. And the ghost is talking to Hamlet. But the queen can't hear the ghost because she's not privy to that kind of information. So the ghost is having a conversation with Hamlet, and the whole time the queen is yelling, "He's mad! Who are you speaking to? You've gone crazy!" It's really good. I mean, we need to go see. I don't know if you ever get to watch the stage version, but it's so good. And he even asks her, "Do you see nothing here?" She says, "Nothing at all, not that I see. Nor do you hear, nor do you nothing hear." She says, "Nothing but ourselves." But so then the ghost goes away. He has some more words with his mom, and then Hamlet exits the stage, hauling Polonius's dead body with him. And we're almost done, but let me make one more video.